All right, let's do NATO.
May Allah awaken the people and help them to see the evil doings of Israel and the United States.
This video always makes me happy. It always puts a smile on my face. All right, let's watch Trump, basically Joe Biden's ex-girlfriend here, NATO, with his grubby little hands, molesting NATO. This has got to be the saddest thing. This is his life's work, and he's over there getting glazed by fucking Mark Rutte, calling him daddy and shit. It's so fucked up.
They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. You know, they fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes. Then it's easy to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes do strong language to
You have to
against
use
them.
strong language. I want to also thank, I had breakfast this morning with the King and Queen, and they're incredible people. I said, you're central casting, beautiful people, great people, big, beautiful heart. And I enjoyed that. And also NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, who's been terrific. He's been a friend of mine.
He's called me daddy.
But we've also reasserted the credibility of American deterrence, which is like no other. The people at NATO said there's never been anything. You know, I rebuilt the entire military during my first term. And we have a great military. We have great generals. Got to know the good ones and the bad ones. We kept the good ones. Over the past 2 days, I was...
Trump being anti-NATO was so funny. He got all these countries to increase military spending while cutting social safety nets. Starmer $70 billion spending for military while cutting few billion for disability benefits. Fuel allowance for poorest workers. Reform going to win in a landslide. Oh, yeah.
Was honored to participate in the NATO leaders meeting and also had extremely good individual discussions with the King and the Queen, Secretary General Rutte, and the Prime Minister. Great discussions. Very knowledgeable people. Major focus of our conversations at the summit was the need for other NATO members to take up the burden of the defense of Europe, and that included the financial burden. As you know, it was 2%, and we got it up to 5%. And they said, a couple of them came up to me. One in particular said, sir, we've been trying to get it up to 3% for 20 years, and we haven't been able, and you got it up to 5%.
I think one of the funniest parts about this is that people don't know this was initially a Barack Obama provision. And that's partially the reason why, while liberals freaked out about this demand early on, Joe Biden also kept it in place. And now Trump is even increasing it further. Now, of course, there's an issue with this. When he says, I want you to increase your military spending to 5%, he means like buy from us, America, because we're the primary weapons manufacturer. The problem, on the other hand, is that all of these other countries, Germany in particular, are now building their own robust manufacturing capabilities to build their own defense industry. So it feels like America is basically creating a market competitor for themselves while also increasing militarism around the world, especially because of the instability that Trump has caused around the world. I think the most dangerous aspect of this has been European countries wanting to militarize themselves instead of simply just buying more American weapons to the tune of 5% of their GDP. Trump campaigned against endless war, criticized NATO, and even became the first president in decades to name the military-industrial complex. Now back in power, he threatens Spain for refusing to allocate more of his GDP to NATO and the military-industrial complex.
Very well. The economy is very...
And a question on Spain. Are you satisfied with today?
Oh, I think Spain's terrible what they've done. No, I do. They're the only country that won't pay the full up. They want to stay at 2%. I think it's terrible. And, you know, they're doing very well. The economy is very well.
He's like, I'm watching them. They got money. Why won't they give it to me? Buy my weapons. You got the money. You got the money. Your economy is doing very well. Give it to me.
And that economy could be blown right out of the water with something bad happening. You know, Spain is the only country.
That's a threat, okay? When Trump says that economy can be blown right out of the water, if this was a more competent administration, if this was a more competent CIA, if this was a more competent NATO, I could totally see him doing like an Operation Gladio type situation. Nice economy you got there. Would be a real shame if you were to lose it. I mean, this is Tony Soprano administration. Guys, in an incredibly selfish way, this is one of the aspects of the Trump administration that I actually do appreciate. Because as someone who has consistently been anti-NATO, anti-militarism, anti-war, anti-imperialism. A bit reductive to say all of those things at once because they're all the same thing. I have often said over and over again that NATO is a protection racket. That's what this is. And Trump leaves no room for doubt in the way that he speaks about NATO. That's it. When he goes, it'd be a real shame if you don't if you don't increase the amount of money you're spending on our weapons that you're buying. Your worst take, in my opinion. At first, I was going to get mad, and then I saw the chatter's name, and, you know, that's a brave hero in the chat. You are allowed to have that name. You are allowed to have that opinion, Ryan. Ryan Ruthless. That's a real NATO head right there. That's Joe Brandon's strongest soldier right there. That's the one NATO AUKUS 5 eyes voter. Ryan Ruthless.
Country that, are you from Spain?
Yeah.
Good, congratulations. You're the only country that is not paying. I don't know what the problem is. I think it's too bad.
Like this right here, NATO is a protection racket. It is exactly the same thing that the mob does. This doesn't mean that there aren't other gangsters out there, the other organized crime elements out there. Russia is one of them, right? But a lot of people point to the largest organized crime unit and say, no, we have to be under the protective banner of this larger gangster because there's another group of gangsters out there, not realizing that you're still under a protection racket. That's all it is. At a certain point, America went to these countries in the aftermath of World War II and said, real nice economy you got there. We'll help you fix it up. Seems like it's been banged up. Banged up, I tell you. But there's gonna be a price. There's gonna be a price. One day, you're gonna have our troops stationed. You're gonna have our guy there. He's gonna protect you. Believe me, folks. He's gonna protect you. You don't want those other guys coming in and breaking your storefront again. And there were instances where people were like, no, I don't want to do this. Or there were places, there were countries where they were maybe not on board with this sort of thing. And do you know what happened in those countries? Explosions happened in those countries. Quite literally what Donald Trump is talking about here with Spain, what he's threatening, where he says, nice economy you got there. Be a real shame if there was instability. That's what he's talking about. If you don't have the interest, we'll find someone in your family who does.
European leaders have been appealing to Donald Trump in the only language he understands, massaging his ego and offering money. The flattery has bordered on the obsequious at times, but that and the pledge to spend 5% of GDP on defence seems to have done the trick. Although Trump still couldn't hide his frustration about some European countries' creative accounting on defence spending, he was more on message than he has been on the threat from Russia and less uncertain about his commitment to...
Bro, they got so much public transit. They even got like little baby trams, dude. Are you kidding me? It's like they're flexing on us.
NATO's founding principle that an attack on one member of the alliance is an attack on all.
The NATO allies
Also, Netherlands is so fake. Hop on, hop off.
committed to dramatically increase their defense spending to that 5% of GDP, something that no one really thought possible. And they said, you did it, sir, you did it. Well, I don't know if I did it, but I think I did.
Well, as you can see, the formal business of the summit has just wrapped up, but the seduction of NATO skeptic Donald Trump has been in full swing here in The Hague. After praising him as a man of strength but also of peace, NATO boss Mark Rutte, wooer-in-chief, compared him to a daddy, helping to break up a playground fight between Israel and Iran.
It's wild to think that these people are the continuation of a legacy that dominated the world. This used to be a proud continent. Empires were born on this continent, and now they sit around and call a moron daddy. Please let me give you more money, daddy. How did things turn out this way? I cannot comprehend how awful the situation is, how awful the vibes are in Europe, on the European continent.
Meanwhile, all the member states except Spain sought to impress by flashing the cash, committing to spending 5% on defence over the next decade.
Daddy's
And
home.
from the UK, the ultimate attempt to put a ring on it. confirmation from Buckingham Palace that preparations for Mr. Trump's state visit later this year are well underway. Our political editor, Gary Gibbon, has this.
Another king deployed to woo the president. The King of the Netherlands put Donald Trump up for the night at his palace.
Well, I hope you slept well.
It was great.
Before the president went to sleep at 1 a.m. local time, he tweeted out this 1980s parody song from his room. Everyone here wanted a moment with the president. The world waited to hear his latest take on the US attempt to wipe out Iran's nuclear facilities. 4 days after President Trump gave his own instant verdict on the success of US bombing raids on Iran's nuclear facilities,
Completely and totally obliterated.
US headlines proclaimed his own intelligence assessments doubted that verdict.
CNN is scum. MSDNC is scum. The New York Times is scum. They're bad people. They're sick.
They're bad. They hurt the feelings of our big, beautiful bombers. How dare they? How dare they talk shit about our big, beautiful bombers? They bomb so good. They bomb Iran. Oh, the tiny chair. It's amazing.
His team piled in, the denials not always compelling.
When you actually look at the report, by the way, it was a top secret report, it was preliminary, it was low confidence. All right, so this is
Oh my God, you got like dickheads like Pete Hegseth over there talking to.
you make assessments based on what you know. They
And
don't
it said it could be very devastating, very serious.
moderate to severe, and we believe far more likely severe and obliterated.
The intelligence was very.
Dude, none of those things are technical terms. I'm going to run this back. I want to hear.
What you know, they
And
don't
it said it could be very devastating, very serious.
moderate to severe, and we believe far more likely severe and obliterated.
The intelligence was very inconclusive. The intelligence says we don't know. It could have been very severe. That's what the intelligence says. So I guess that's correct. But I think we can take that we don't know. It was very severe. It was obliteration.
Also, he just went back on the initial assessment where he's like, no, we destroyed it thoroughly. We destroyed it. We obliterated it. It's actually on fire right now. And then now he's like, well, maybe it was not obliterated. We don't know. The intelligence does not know.
That hit ended the war. I don't want to use an example of Hiroshima. I don't want to use an example of Nagasaki. But that was essentially the same thing. That ended that war. This ended that with the war.
No gavel, but a submarine sonar ping brought the NATO leaders to order.
32 nations stand as one.
To keep unity, NATO tried to keep the conversation to something Donald Trump actually agreed with member states on. They should spend much more, 5% of GDP, on their defences by 2035.
They're so cucked.
We meet at a dangerous moment for our 1 billion citizens.
The entire purpose of NATO's rearmament programme is to fend off Russian aggression. To keep America on side, though, all mention of Russia was kept out of the final communiqué. The object of today was to get Donald Trump to come here and stay in the room. And
wait, they didn't even mention Russia? Because Donald Trump would be upset if they mentioned Russia? What is going on? What's the purpose then? Everything is so busted, dude. This entire enterprise is broken.
And thereby conceal NATO's fundamental disagreements with him.
Thank you. I stayed through every one of those.
I want to mention one more time, but all of this money, the increase in GDP spending is a way for America to do this, okay? And to do this money, more money for me. When America says you all need a higher degree of commitment, you need to spend 5% of your GDP on weapons, they mean you need to buy weapons from us and give us more of your money. It is a way for the lordship to come. It is a way for the king to go to the lordship and say, let's go. We need more. I need more money. Give me more money.
Those speeches. Everyone. And some were good and some weren't quite as good, right?
After a meeting with President Zelensky, Donald Trump's language on Ukraine, for today at least, seemed to edge very slightly closer to the central NATO view.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff,
General Kane.
yes, he has said that Mr. Putin has territorial ambitions beyond Ukraine. Do you view that in the same way?
Possible. I mean, it's possible. I know one thing he'd like to settle. I consider him a...
I mean, you can't say no. You're at the NATO summit. That would kind of undermine the whole purpose of this entire franchise, don't you think? he can't say no to that here. Maybe back home he'd be like, no, because I've stopped him. He trusts me. Vladimir and I, we have a very close relationship.
A person that's, I think, been misguided. I'm very surprised, actually. Where are you from?
I'm from Ukraine.
Oh,
so my
wow.
question to you is whether or not the U.S. is ready to sell anti-air missile systems Patriot to Ukraine.
We're going to see if we can make some available. You know, they're very hard to get. We need them.
He's like, oh, well, it's too bad for you. We got to give them to Israel. Israel needs them. You know how they are. You know how crazy they get. And then you see the Iranian missiles. They hit very hard, very fast, faster than anyone's ever seen before. We need to give them to Israel.
We need to now push harder on Ukraine. And I think that reflects the mood in the room, and that it's time for Putin to come to the table. And so that's been the subject not only of the discussions in the summit, but actually of many of the discussions over dinner last night and in the margins.
There's scepticism about whether member countries really will get to 5% of GDP defence spend, 3.5% on core defence. Though only Spain openly wriggled out of the commitment, others sounded keen to follow.
We will certainly also try to achieve our capability targets and, if possible, spend...
Bro, you're like, what do you... These are like incredibly well-read individuals, you know, experts at statecraft, been around the block, and they're just over here all just going, yes, very nice. We are going to do everything we can. It's
less than 3.5% of our GDP.
Oh, I think Spain's terrible what they've done. No, I do. They're the only country that won't pay the full up. They want to stay at 2%. I think it's terrible. And, you know, they're doing very well. The economy is very well.
I hope Europeans understand that 5% GDP means bye-bye social democracy. If this did not imply imminent societal collapse and fascist authoritarian movements rising up from the ashes, I would sit here and ask all of the social democrats that have chewed my ear off for the past 3 years about how you simply don't understand. NATO is a very important protective alliance, and you don't have the European mindset. You don't get it. We need it. You know, all of those guys. I want to hear how they feel about this allegiance. You know what I mean? I want to hear about what their society looks like when 5% of their GDP is going directly to buying, I don't know, the newest version of Pilot Decapitator, the F-35 all-purpose multi-role fighter jet. You know? Sorry, can't have healthcare anymore. Oh, is your infrastructure crumbling? Oh, shit. Well, at least you have some flashy guns that America can just basically turn off when they feel like it. Yeah, now you get a little bit of taste of American-style democracy.
And that economy could be blown right out of the water with something bad happening. Oh, fake news, CNN?
There were parting snarls for the press who'd questioned his assertion that America had obliterated Iran's nuclear missile program.
I think you're reaching the narrow limits of your understanding of the new Lockheed Martin tech that we're buying, trying to not get banned. Dude, it's going to be so sick. No. You don't deserve healthcare. Happy to show you the way, big dog. Is the new Lockheed Martin tech that you're purchasing going to, I don't know, bring the public transit back to previous levels, like maybe a couple decades prior, as you sit around and endlessly yell about Muslims coming into your country? They're the reason why the railroads are shit. not because this is your spending priority now after decades of, I don't have any issues with Iranians. I have issues with their government funding global terrorism. Dog, what do you think this is? Look at the screen right now. It says NATO, leaders trade money for defense and flattery to win over Trump. What do you think this is? I'm from Belgium, and you're right, start to end. They already cut retirement fund and unemployment to help buy F-35 and useless missile system. No, you don't understand. You don't understand. Belgian chatter, you do not understand. Any moment now, Iran is going to launch ballistic missiles at you, at Belgium. You need those F-35s, dude. Any moment, it can happen at any moment. I don't know what you're going to do with the F-35s in that process because it's not like anti-air defense systems anyway. But who cares? You know what I mean?